Welcome to episode 114 of The Endless Stream. I'm Aidan, and this week I am joined by Chris. We are two film nerds in this instance, just talking about movies. Each week we take some of the endless stream of content brought to you through Netflix, Hulu, YouTube, Spotify, Disney+, Amazon Prime. Wherever you get your content, we take a chunk of it, we watch it, and we talk about it. This week in particular, we're talking about the movies of M. Night Shyamalan. We're talking about some upcoming films. We're also talking about early 90s virtual reality sci-fi films, Virtuosity, The Lawnmower Man, and Johnny Mnemonic, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff. I think Wes Anderson comes up at some point as well. If you like what you hear, please consider subscribing to the podcast, heading over to Spotify, heading over to iTunes, rating, reviewing, liking, subscribing. All of those good things really help us out. On top of that, you can head over to Instagram at The Endless Cast, and we put up art and clips to go with each episode. That's a great place to send us a message, suggest something for us to watch, disagree with our opinions, put forth the opinions of your own. It's a good place to get in touch with us. Or you can send us an email at theendlesscast@gmail.com. All of that being said, let's get into the episode. Unique New York. Unique New York.
Big boobies.
And with that, we start the episode. This is a shortened episode in, slightly different circumstances. Brian and Kevin were unavailable this week. Aidan and Chris are going camping, so we're taking some time before the trip to talk movies.
Who are you going to tell all your Chicago adventures
Who
to?
am I going to tell all my Chicago
Since
adventures?
I'm here and I already know. And I'm certain the listener doesn't care. And I already know about it.
And you don't care.
I'm there for most of it, so I
Well, that's why we're able to
correct, yes. I don't care.
That's why we're able to cut this episode in half.
We really shortened the runtime by stop talking about Chicago.
Yep. And
start talking about M. Night Shyamalan.
Yes, this is the Shyamalan episode. We watched and talked about Knock at the Cabin a couple of episodes ago, and Chris and I were talking about the career of M. Night Shyamalan here, and we thought we'd do a dedicated episode. I guess the key question
we're doing the whole thing on M. Night?
Well, we'll talk about other stuff as well, but I guess the key question I have is...
What did you think of Old? Let's start there.
Well...
It didn't seem like you enjoyed Old.
No. The question that spurred this off is, after...
Is M. Night a good director?
Basically. After The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable and Signs, which were all fairly well received and were actually fairly strong, it does feel like he like people did not like The Village. People hated The Lady in the Water. The Happening was dog shit.
Some people liked The Village.
Some people liked The Village. Then The Last Airbender, After Earth, and then the question is, that's 2015 and it's 2023, and it does seem like with the Knock at the Cabin that he started to dig himself up, and the question kind of was when did that happen?
He's been digging himself up well before Knock at the Cabin, I would argue.
Yes, but Knock at the Cabin seems like the one where he got out of the hole, if that makes any sense. But with that in mind, I then watched Old with you last night, and that is fucking mucky. I mean, it's based on a graphic novel.
Is it?
It is.
Oh.
Which is in the credits. But
I was busy laughing during the credits.
The movie, the dialogue is so wooden at every step of the way.
Yeah.
Did you like you liked Old?
I love his movies.
Okay. Go on.
I think it's incorrect to watch one in a silo. I think the reason that he's having a bit of a resurgence is that he has patterns to his movies, and people like those patterns, and people are rooting for him ever since he did The Visit, which is when I think this new cult of M. Night that is appearing is starting. I'm saying appearing. I am a part of. I don't know how many people are a part of it, but I know that there's at least a small groundswell of people who think that after all of the studio input of After Earth and Last Airbender and The Happening, where he lost all his credibility. He started to bring that credibility back with The Visit. That was his main one, where he... I guess the thing I'm really getting stuck on is that and stuck on in a good way, is that he turned around and said, I'm fed up of all these notes. I don't want to be part of the studios just like, oh, I get this input, I get that input, I change my movie based on that. And he made The Visit, and that was in 2015. And then he's been uphill ever since. And The Visit was like a low-budget horror movie that he did with like comedy elements that I don't think any studio would have let him get away with. There's a lot of small white child rapping, which is difficult to watch. But it's good. It's a good, solid horror movie, super low budget. And then he used the profits off that because it made like M. Night money on a new M. Night budget. And he used the profits off that to direct Split and direct Glass and direct Old and direct Knock at the Cabin, all of which he's paying for by himself and is not getting influenced by anyone else. And for better or for worse, the ham-fisted dialogue, the weird choices, it's all his. It's not some studio exec has pushed this on him. I'll pause there. Does that explain? Does that make it better that they're bad?
It kind of puts him in a category of director, though, like Kevin Smith or like Ed Wood, where you're like, these are crap, but I love that somebody's got the creative freedom to pursue and make the things they want to make. And once you embrace that, you see the joy in the filmmaking of it. Mm-hmm. But it's still like, whoa, these are rough. But you have to like...
Here's a distinction I will make between Kevin Smith and M. Night, though, is Kevin Smith is making movies for his fans, and then his fans watch the movies, and then it's Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back Part 2, Clerks 3. He's just building on the same stuff over and over again. The other element, like I like the entrepreneurial spirit that M. Night has. I like the kind of punk rock attitude that he has, where he's like, no notes. I just want to make the movie I want to make. But the other side of it is he's making unpredictable movies. If I watch a Kevin Smith movie, I can say it's going to have Jay and Silent Bob. It's going to have this cast of characters. I like M. Night's movie because they're all unique. Knock at the Cabin is an interesting story that has nothing to do with Old. And both of them are interesting stories. And I like going to see them in the cinema and sitting with a large audience of people and just being like, I could not tell you what's going to happen in the next 20 minutes of this movie. Whereas Kevin Smith, I don't think, has the same thing. Silent Bob will not talk until he does.
Yeah. He had a minute with like Tusk and Red State where he was...
Red State was cool. I liked that.
Yeah.
And he said, I remember watching an interview with him and he said in Red State, as soon as you start to figure out what's going on, I want to change that.
Yeah. And
I think he does that ultimately to a fault, but it's like good up until the last 3 quarters, and then I think it just didn't land for me. But I like that. I want more of that Kevin Smith. I don't want more of Kevin Smith like fan service.
Yeah, it's... I wonder what we're going to get from Kevin Smith in the next couple of years as well, though. Like, I know I'm slightly changing the thing, but like, I don't know. Like, he was coming up with weird ideas off the back of podcasting, and then he got really, like, he started being commercially viable as like a TV director, and he was also smoking a lot of weed, and now he's been through, I don't know, heart attack, TV presenter, mental health issues.
What TV shows he presented?
He was presenting a lot of like Hollywood.
Oh, no.
And like after this show and after that show, and
like Mario Lopez.
Yeah, he became a sort of like
man on your hotel TV.
Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of Comic-Con stuff. So I am hoping that maybe he'll get back to the Tusk Red State type of stuff where he was doing interesting things. But I also feel like he's writing. What did he do?
He is getting back to that sort of stuff, though.
Yes, let's bring it back.
Knock at the Cabin's great. Like, if Old is dodgy, but is an interesting premise, Beach makes it old. Spoilers. Beach makes it old.
The beach makes them old.
and it just plays with a bunch of ideas. I heard you were, when we were watching it, as bits were like teeing up, you know, like he's playing with the idea of cells getting old very fast on a very specific beach. And he's calling stuff out pretty ham-fisted. There's people looking at stuff being like, I wonder if it's the rocks. And that's kind of all the explanation you get. It is the rocks. It's not about the rocks. But at least it's an interesting idea that he follows through to the very end with a somewhat satisfying conclusion that at least kind of makes sense. And then,
sorry,
you know, if
explain that again.
I don't want to.
you just said somewhat makes sense.
It does make sense.
Which bit?
The reason for the beach and the reason for them all getting stuck on the beach and the reason that they went through the thing that they went through.
Okay.
Getting old fast.
That's fair.
I'm not saying the premise of them getting old fast is ever explained or makes sense, but the motivation behind it and its continued entrapment of bewildered tourists is
kind of explained.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was, I think I'm hoping that old is the start, you know, the kind of Glass and Split or him doing his Kevin Smith thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's got to be still tied with studios, right? Because somebody owns, you know, the rights to Unbreakable.
The MCU.
M. Night Shyamalan Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that taken?
MNSCU. Yeah.
Let's just see if he can have MCU. They seem to be done with it. But then Knock at the Cabin is, I think, a little wacky at the end.
Like, yeah, I was thinking about this last night after Old because you commented that his dialogue spends so much time explaining people's careers.
Jobs. He really gets hung up on people's jobs.
Yeah.
In Old, it's this kid going around, and I saw people complaining about it, but the kid is definitely, you know, on the spectrum, autistic, and he's wanting to know stuff about people, so he's going up and asking their job. I had no problem.
I don't know, because by that same measure, every other human in that movie is, like, they've got the same degree
all identified by their jobs. They're not, I am a doctor.
But they've got the same degree of conversational style.
Yeah.
Just like, I'm a psychologist. My sister's also a psychologist. I want to get back. We had a fight. It's not something important anyway. No.
Okay, buddy. I'm just trying to enjoy the beach here.
But I was thinking about that in relation to Knock at the Cabin, because once you pointed that out, it's a better format for it because these four assailants really do want to tell and explain who they are and why they're doing what they're doing, one person at a time. And there's this kind of like church-like testify, you know, like, who am I, why this matters, why I'm doing this.
Ultimately, I think it does matter in Knock at the Cabin.
Yes, but they do they just literally stand in front of you and tell them their life story in that way. But it works there because the way it's structured. But
he's trending in the right direction. Old, it was unnecessary, and I think it's him leaning on a crutch of, these people have jobs, and those jobs inform what they're bringing to the old beach. Knock at the Cabin, it shows up, and it's like it's kind of an integral part to the story without giving spoilers for it. Like, their jobs do play an important part on it, not only given their background, but also ultimately his ending to that.
It does feel like Old needed, and I'm just checking this now, it needed like another pass of writer. You know what I mean? It needed somebody else to do a pass on the script. And let's see.
It's just him.
It's not just him, but it's... I'm just checking if it's native English speakers, because Frederick Peters just has European films on his... Yeah. So it's...
And he's writing that family. The family that are having There's a family going through a divorce, and they're taking the kids to a beach to enjoy time as a family before they announce the divorce and they announce the mother's brain tumor or whatever.
So
pick the wrong beach.
It might be a bit reductive, But there are 3 writers on Knock at the Cabin and 3 writers on Old. And M. Night is on both of them. But on Old, the 2 co-writers are European with French language films as their... Like, basically, English is not their first language.
But that's what I'm saying.
And that dialogue is stiff.
And you can see that in the couple's relationship.
Yeah.
Like, that is...
Those are 2... Also, Gal Garcia Bernal, like, these are 2 non-native English speakers as well. Speaking English written by non-native English speakers. It just...
You're not coming to an M. Night movie for the interpersonal dynamics of the characters. You're coming for the fun idea. And so if to explain the idea, they have to go and they have to say, I'm a nurse 10 times on the beach, which your man from Lost does.
You are so obsessed with the future. Our relationship is now. We need to feel like now.
I will forgive the cardboard.
You are so obsessed with the past just because you work in a museum.
If you need to talk like that to explain your wacky idea, I'm on board with it. I'm fine.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll take a fun idea that is explored correctly over keep ragging on Ant-Man, but like... Those are professional big actors, you know,
yeah.
And they can't even make it fly. So I will take if we take all the stiff dialogue and take it off the board, it's just a fun idea about a beach that makes you old, and it explores all that in the various ways that you could possibly be like. If I was stuck on an old beach, what would happen to me? What happens if I had a disease, or what happens if I had a baby, or what happens if I'm a teen, or what happens if I'm an old person?
Yeah.
Death, mostly. It's mostly death.
Mostly death, yeah. I will say, I kind of... when I saw the trailer for Old and I heard the pitch of Old, I thought, dog shit, I have no interest in this at all.
What?
I really thought it looked fucking horrible.
You watched
and I watched... and I watched Old, and I was pleasantly surprised. I did enjoy their interactions. I enjoyed the different ways the beach affected all of them. Mostly my issues were just like I know these are good actors, but woof.
Are they?
Rufus Sewell's good. He's worked for years. I've enjoyed him in most things. Gal Garcia Bernal, I feel like he's got Oscar nominations against him. Like, they are not shit. You know what I mean? Like, who's the kid who played the older... I don't know why I'm looking at your screen.
Trent, age 6.
Yeah.
Alex Wolff, Trent, aged 15. Spoilers, he gets older.
Yeah, I think these are good actors. I just think they... And Rufus Sewell's breakdown was very well performed, right? Like, that erratic thing he brought to that was great. And I pointed out...
like they could have done a couple of extra takes. I understand. I'm conceding that the dialogue is tough for any of those actors to deliver. And then also the performances that they picked to include in the movie, maybe not the best. Not that I guess I am offering this up as defense, but it is a COVID movie, which, you know, made a small cast. I don't know, maybe they're limited on how many takes they can do. But given his other movies, given Mark Wahlberg's takes in The Happening, I actually think that M. Night is watching this footage and going, yep, that's good. Lunch. We'll take lunch. So I'm not saying it's all because it's a COVID movie, but I think it's even more impressive that it's a COVID movie.
Okay.
Knock at the Cabin, unrestrained by a world pandemic, and is better for it. And he's starting to attract Batista. And I think Batista and M. Night are in a similar ballpark, where M. Night's bouncing back from his ladies in the water and his After Earths. And Batista is trying to lay claim to being a legitimate actor. And I like the two underdog situations, although slightly different. I'm glad that they are like helping each other. And M. Night's like, hey, I've got this role for you. I want to squeeze you into a tiny shirt and give you tiny glasses and then make the whole cabin creak as you walk around, which is great. Like, they make him seem so humongous, and it's not Batista making Drax jokes. So,
What did you make of M. Night's cameo in Old?
oh, I would. His cameo in Old is not my favorite. His cameo in Knock at the Cabin is absolutely my favorite M. Night.
That one's fairly tasteful.
It's very tasteful. I like he's trying to operate some sort of deep fried chicken machine on the TV before the news kicks on, and it's great. He's had good
QFC.
cameos in the past.
QVC.
QVC.
Yeah.
Does he show up in After Earth? I wonder. Because isn't that just
I bet you he does.
Because I thought that was pretty much exclusively just Jaden and Will.
So the hostess at the hotel in Old is Francesca Eastwood. That is Clint's daughter. We also have the hip hop star mid-sized sedan.
Mid-sized sedan.
That's as name choices go.
There's always some degree of hip hop. The Visit has a bunch of like this small child rapping a fair bit, and mid-sized sedan shows up. So I think M. Night's got some bars.
And the other thing, yeah, because there's, what is the more bread for the dough or something? Was the more dough for the bread? They name check a song. There's a song that they sing in it as well that is sung 3 or 4 times and is the title song over the credits. And
you didn't like this, but I like it because it shows more M. Night bootstrapping his own movies. Did they write it? Did they sing it?
So it is his daughter, Salika Shyamalan, is the singer-songwriter of Remain, I think is the name of the song. And it's not good. I know that's could be perceived to be mean or whatever, but like a little girl is singing it as if it's a pop song in the back of a van and her mother's happy hearing her voice, and we have no context for what this is, and I don't know if she's doing it well or bad because I don't know what the air should be, and then it's sung later, and like this is, if I were to write a song with no musical training, the rising and falling and changing of tone in such a basic fashion is about where I would end up. But there's no tune.
I understand that. But if you look at the broader picture,
it's tough.
It's a profit game. And M. Night can look to a legitimate artist signed by a label and spend money. Mm-hmm. And I'm making the money symbol by rubbing my fingers together. But that's expensive. And he could just have his family do stuff. There's many Shyamalans credited at the end of Old. I noticed more than ever in this movie. So he's keeping it in the family. He's bootstrapping it. He's got his house back.
Yes. Did he lose his house?
He mortgaged it and used the money to make The Visit. And that nest egg has been used to make Old, and everything subsequent, everything past The Visit has been paid with house money.
And it's and that's admirable, and that's part of the like it's one thing making a film and hitting it big and becoming a director. Becoming a feature film director is crazy difficult to do. Mm-hmm. To basically lose it and have to start from scratch.
He's done it twice. He's
done
prestiging.
It twice. Yes, he's prestiging. So at the end of the day, I think I'm still very wishy-washy on M. Night Shyamalan's films.
You liked Knock at the Cabin?
I enjoyed Knock at the Cabin.
Okay.
I didn't see Glass. Split was okay. After Earth, I mean, I like a shitty sci-fi movie, but
no, we don't have to talk about
we don't have to talk about that. Devil he just wrote?
No, he produced Devil, but I don't think he was that involved with it. I don't think that counts as one is.
Okay.
He's involved.
Yeah.
They put his name in the trailer, but that's what they were producing his movies.
Okay, so can we round out the discussion on M. Night Shyamalan by basically saying...
Give him a chance.
Give him a chance.
Just root for him.
Just root for people.
Just root for him. You don't have to like his movies. Just root for him. Or go see it in the cinema with a large crowd and watch everyone just go, what the fuck? In the middle of this.
I mean, I was in the theater when the trailer for Devil came up, and when From M. Night Shyamalan came up on screen, the entire room groaned.
Okay, well, when I saw Knock at the Cabin trailer premiere before, I'm not going to remember, whenever I saw the trailer for Knock at the Cabin before, I was pumped about it before they even did the M. Night Shyamalan thing. I love a premise. I don't want, I don't need an extended universe. I just want a fun premise idea. And when the Knock at the Cabin thing, and he was just like, one of you is going to have to kill the other. I was like, great, I'm sold.
Yeah. Okay. Do we know what he's working on next?
There's an upcoming section.
What's the next thing?
Untitled M. Night Shyamalan Project, 2024.
The Watchers.
He's just coming up with it. He's just coming up with the top of
the dome. Scary lamp. Scary lamp. Okay. M. Night. Jesus, what is that photo? Oh yeah, this is Italy. Sorry.
I was there too.
Uh-huh.
I was there too.
Look at you. We did a sci-fi movie double bill the other night.
Oh yeah. We did. I was there too.
We watched 1995, Johnny Mnemonic.
I do like good movies. There's good movies I like too. But I think Johnny Mnemonic rules because it's a good, I think this actually fits in the theme of M. Night. I don't like a movie that is attempting to be bad and is like, look how bad I am. So I'm talking about like Sharknadoes or Sharkalanche or did I say Sharknado already?
You did.
Those naff, look at us, look how bad we are. Like Piranha 3D. I'm struggling to think of them. But you see them on they're in the back corner of Tesco.
Yeah.
Those movies attempt to be bad.
Yeah.
They're like, look how bad we are.
I can't watch an intentionally bad movie.
Cocaine Bear. I think that even falls into it. Flashy title, cheap budget, get people in seats, get the money off them, get enough money to make another one.
You don't think that's trying to be funny?
I think Cocaine Bear is actually trying to be funny. I guess my real problem is with the fake B movies.
Yeah.
Whereas Johnny Mnemonic and other movies of its ilk, I want movies that attempted to be really, really good movies and then just missed the mark. But they tried their hardest. And I think Johnny Mnemonic is like an interesting swing at a dystopian future. And watching it this time, I didn't notice all the influences on The Matrix. Like, there's so much stuff in that movie that shows up then in The Matrix. And you said that it was the Wachowskis got a bunch of influence from.
Yeah, so I'm just getting that off the Wikipedia, but it basically said that the Wachowskis name-checked Johnny Mnemonic in terms of some visual and conceptual stuff. And, like, Mnemonic has William Gibson as a writer, as a source, and, like, that's sci-fi, that's some sci-fi heritage. And
I can be your Aidan. Do you want to explain to the listeners what the movie's about?
Oh boy. So the movie is about a time in the near future where information is trafficked. Huh?
I don't know why you're doing.
Because I'm trying to just kill time. Information is trafficked through couriers called mnemonics.
It doesn't need a voice, is what I'm saying. The storyline is so crazy that
I'm not. This is me querying. Johnny, no last name, is a mnemonic. That's what they said. Mm-hmm. He basically has a big USB drive in his head. Mm-hmm. People put information in his brain, and he has to get from point A to point B with it. He has, I think he says he has 160 gigs of space in his brain.
I was saying it was 30 gigs. I was totally wrong. It was 160 gigs.
And he puts 300 gigs in, and his brain is melting because of it. And he has like 48 hours to get that information out of his head.
The disease that he suffers from injecting too much data into his brain is called synaptic seepage. Ooh. And the symptoms are going, ah, and like pressing your hands into your eyeballs at key plot points. Like when he needs to do something, then he gets hit by that synaptic seepage.
Yeah. It's got some cool stuff with like, okay, they're playing with fashion, they're playing with like class, you know, they've got upper lower class, they've got low techs that aren't using the technology, they've got a working class of people that are affected by the, you know, the environmental fallout of this technologies. They've got NAS, which is a degenerative nerve.
It's a degenerative nerve disease spread by, I guess, what Jim Core has been on about, like 5G towers. The people that, because they live in such a high-tech world, are being impacted by the technology surrounding them that's giving them this debilitating disease.
There's fashion and sexuality stuff in like 1995. Like he's got one of these gangsters has trans bodyguards.
I think fair one of them was trans. Yeah,
but it's
a very progressive view of the world.
Yeah, with the
in one way.
Yeah, it's got that bound Matrix Wachowski's sex club leather,
a lot of sex club vibes.
The future is going to be really horny, but also dying, which is not wrong. I think it's set in 2021.
It is. It is set in the past now.
It is definitely one of those films as well that like has the like 90s VR thing where he's got power gloves and a visor, and there's a lot of like
he has to like punch his way into the internet. You know, like it's not like the AOL like beep, but like he has to put the gloves on and the visor, and then to navigate he's basically like swimming around.
Yeah, and at one point where they go to like Radio Shack and he's picking up equipment, they've got like the stealth attachment, they've got this, they've got that, and then he just says, "Get me one of those iPhones." It's like,
right, yeah. Remember we all looked at each other when he said iPhone. Yeah,
1995 iPhone.
He also said 8 other things before that, which were like, "Give me a stealth module CPU expander," and you're like, okay.
And the iPhone was a big old red handset. With like
it looked like the presidential red phone, right? Like that was the iPhone, was just a regular
but it just had a keypad built onto the top of it as well, so he could like just type in his numbers and then held his phone up to his head, and that was the iPhone.
They called it.
I mean, good job, William Gibson. Good job, Johnny Mnemonic.
I guess it's an old movie, so we can
Dolph
spoil it.
Oh yeah.
Which Dolph are you referring to? Because there's 2 Dolphs in the movie. There's Dolph Lundgren, who plays a hitman who's chosen his theme. Very thematic hitman. Who goes by, does he just go by Jesus?
Street Preacher.
I
think someone calls him Gene or something at one point, you know? Okay. Like the guy who hires him was like, "Don't let me down, Jerry."
He has a big blonde beard and he wears the whole Jesus getup, like the robes and everything. 1 red robe, 1 white robe, and he stabs a bunch of people with crucifixes.
Yeah.
And that's Dolph Lundgren, who is playing it, you know, like this is his big break. You know, I think there's a lot of people in the movie who are like, yeah, we're here, whatever. But this is Keanu post-Speed. This is, you know, a high... You can tell it's a big budget movie. So he's obviously swinging for the fences, but he is dressed as Jesus going around impaling people. And
it does feel like somehow he got it in his head that this was his big character piece.
That's what I'm saying. He's playing it with a level of enthusiasm that makes you think, this is it. I'm going to be known for this.
Is Dolph Lundgren like better than we think he is? Because I'm trying to think of, if you think about his like first appearance in like Rocky IV, and he's playing that Russian wall, "I will break you," this thing. If you think about Universal Soldier, again, he's this I guess that's still dead silence, isn't it?
They're putting him in a little box, you know, where he doesn't have to do much. He's doing a lot in this. That's why I'm wondering, did they let him out of the box? You know, Universal Soldier, just be a tight-lipped soldier. You know, in Rocky, be a tight-lipped boxer. A Russian boxer. And in this, they're like, okay, we'll let you out of the box. You're a hitman who's Jesus Christ. He goes around and he asks people for forgiveness and stabs them.
Did you ever see Showdown in Little Tokyo?
No.
I was like...
It seems like 3 movies pushed together.
Yeah. That is Bruce Lee's kid, Brandon Lee. I loved this film growing up. It's got Tia Carrere, It's got, I think it's got, Dolph Lundgren, Brandon Lee, Tia Carrera, and I was like off the back of The Crow and all the Kung Fu movies, and this was on Sky Movies a lot at the time. I really enjoyed it. I think it's probably fucking horrible. If I was to watch it again, we should watch it. But I guess Dolph was trying things, I guess is where we're at with that.
And only the second best Dolph in the whole movie.
No, you said that a second ago. Who's the other Dolph?
The other Dolph is the...
You're right. I keep forgetting about the...
There's a dolphin. So Johnny Mnemonic is obviously trying to get this data out of his head, and there's many hackers along the way, including Henry Rollins. He shows up for a little bit, but I'm not getting distracted from this dolphin again. So he... all these hackers of varying ability are trying to get this data out of his head, and Henry Rollins finally says... You got to go to Toby. He has a pretty
Jonesy or something.
Jones or something. He was like, he used to be... they tease it by saying he used to be in the Navy. And then Keanu's like, okay, yeah, this guy sounds pretty good. And then they get there, and it's like a very happy dolphin in a tank with kind of like the visor and the setup. And he's on the internet as well. And he surfs through Johnny's brain and... I think solves all his problems.
I think so. I mean, what, like...
Best Dolph.
Flipper to the rescue.
Yeah. Well, I think the whole payoff for that was like, they had one dolphin model that was in a tank and not really doing much because that was the real world dolphin. But where the dolphin really started doing well is when you do the CGI, you know, that like early 90s Lawnmower Man style CGI where it's just a mess. It looks like those like Windows 98 screensavers where you go through the maze or whatever. Except in the maze with you is this dolphin.
Little Echo the Dolphin vibes.
We should have watched Lawnmower Man as well.
We should have watched Lawnmower Man as well. Yeah, Johnny Mnemonic is funny because it just feels like there's too many good ideas. They are good ideas. They're good sci-fi ideas. They're fun. It's just...
They're doing too much too fast.
Somebody just thought, this is my one shot, get everything in it.
Yeah. And it was his one shot. Did he make other movies?
Not really, no. He's listed as like an artist. I think it's Roberto Longo.
Is that a bad sign if they're listed as artists?
No, well, like if I look at him now, it sort of talks about the rest of his career through the 90s and 2000s as like artist. It's not that it's a bad sign. It's just that like he didn't do much.
He made Johnny Mnemonic
films
and he's
after
like,
the fact.
I've achieved everything I wanted to achieve.
Yeah, that was the one. A lot of music videos. But that's his feature film.
Yeah, I think it was a good opener to the double bill.
It's not getting better than that. And yeah, then the double bill was a film you hadn't seen before. So do you want to tell us about that one?
Yeah, it does get a little fuzzy because I've been watching a lot of these early 90s, air quotes, computer movies. Is it Virtuosity? Stop me if I'm getting any of this wrong.
I will.
It's got, is it Denzel?
Mm-hmm.
And Russell Crowe. You know, this was on my radar because I was saying how charming Russell Crowe is. Obviously, as he's gotten older, he's gotten himself into a bit of hot water. But young Russell Crowe, very charming, very witty, very sharp, very handsome. In a pretty boy way that I was not expecting with Russell Crowe, given how gruff. I mean, think of him as, he was Zeus in that Thor movie? I'm just trying to paint a picture of what he looks like now versus like I'd watched LA Confidential, which I'd never seen before, and I'd never seen like young hot shit Russell Crowe. And then I think because I'd said that and how much I enjoyed him in LA Confidential, you mentioned this movie, and it was a ride. It was a ride. Again, more like 90s campy computer sci-fi fare where I guess Denzel is like a cop who's in a training simulator and Russell Crowe is the bad guy within the training simulator, and he manages
he's a former cop, current convict who's being used as a test subject.
That's right, because there was a lot of scenes that I'd seen in other movies and I can't tell if this was the source or if the other one was the source, but it has basically shot for shot and one of the shared actors, that scene where Sean Connery in The Rock escapes from the chair. And he's like, Godspeed. And he uses that key to like burst out the window.
It's got that little like cell door opening and like shuffling up a hallway in chains. You know?
Well, when Sean Connery shuffles in the chains and he's got the cool haircut, he looks cool and badass, and they're like, oh, they've really turned a rock over to find this guy. And then when Denzel has to do it, I don't know, is this a director's note or just a real attention to realism? Because he's wearing the shackles on his ankles, he has to do this little shuffle, which is hard to describe.
It's a little 8-inch stride. It's a little...
He's doing like a jogging on the spot, almost like a very slow jogging on the spot. And it really took me out of the seriousness of the moment, because he's doing this little bunny hop basically as he walks down the corridor. Looking
great though, right?
Looks great.
Yeah,
really
like,
does look
even
great.
his like convict self with the beard and the hair.
Oh yeah.
Great look.
No, he really does. I haven't... That era Denzel, I guess I haven't seen that many of those movies, but he's a good protagonist, you know? He's got that sort of confidence, and it goes well against Russell Crowe's. Weirdly, he's
swinging big.
He's swinging big because is the plot that he's taken every serial killer. So they've taken every serial killer's mind and put it into a database, and then they combined all those serial killer So I'm talking like Hitler. I think Hitler was mentioned.
Yeah, evil.
John Wayne,
crime.
John Wayne Gacy and Hitler. Those are the two names I remember are in Russell Crowe's head. Mm-hmm. And then obviously a whole bunch more. But he's sort of like sexy evil as well.
Yeah, he's supposed to be a simulator for training police. He's a crime simulator. Mm. But his programmer, Steven Spinella, is...
You got that in front of you?
I do. Decides that he wants him in the real world.
I think he... Now, it's getting late when this happened, but like, doesn't he... He's trying to create the woman in red from the Matrix. Like, he's made some sexy woman in the machine, and he's trying to bring her to life. And then Russell Crowe, on the computer side, swaps himself in for the lady in the red dress. Is that how he gets it into the real world? Am I misremembering that?
I honestly don't know what the motivation was for this programmer character, but he just loves evil. And maybe Russell Crowe's simulated evil character is so charismatic, but he talks him into helping him get out of the computer. So he goes to a guy who's working on a separate project, which is nanobot androids, artificial organisms.
Yeah.
And he says, I want you to take one of my simulated people and make a body for him. Yeah. And he does that by presenting him with Sheila 3.2, who is so sexy.
Yeah.
And he wants to make like a live action, like a real version. He would like a woman to have sex with. Mm-hmm. And
the motivation for so many movies.
Indeed. And basically all of human achievement. But the programmer then swaps out the core of Sheila for Sid 6.7, who is Russell Crowe. And this horny dude inadvertently creates Russell Crowe. Mm-hmm. And Russell Crowe, he goes to work.
I forgot about the extra engineer who's brought in, and it also leads to Russell Crowe's character has some vague dependency on glass.
Yeah, so any damage or loss to the organism can be replenished by the nanites will consume the silica or whatever it is in glass.
It's like Terminator 2. He can like heal himself, but rather than just healing himself because he's made of magic goo, he has to like eat glass, which like I'm fine with. It seems like an extra step, but the way that it shows up in the movie is that the way that they track him down, at least on 2 occasions, is that there's just like bite marks out of car windows. Do you remember that what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They're like, he must have gone this way because there's like a hump. There's like a shoe mark out of a car window that's missing, and there's just some stuff that I was getting a little hung up on, but it was fun and campy until it wasn't. Like, some of the violence was, like Johnny Mnemonic, they're chopping people's hands off and they're blowing people's skulls off, but it's kind of campy fun. This one, like, tonally was kind of strange because there's all the campy fun, but then there's moments where the violence is like aggressive, and you're like, oh, there's just dead bodies lying around, and they're doing close-ups on the lifeless bodies, and they're moving them around and stuff, and it's just...
Well, that is a great point. Like, there's a lot of violence in Johnny Mnemonic, and there's heads taken off, and a lot of people shot, but it's so cartoony.
Oh, it's all fun.
But the violence in Virtuosity is really quite extreme.
Taken aback by some of it.
And what's funny there as well is that, like, it's not violent. It's not like, there is physical violence, but there's a whole scene where Russell Crowe is just forcing people to scream with guns at their head, you know? And I know it's for a ridiculous purpose, but it's that, like, genuine terror.
Yeah.
You know, this person has taken a nightclub, a public space hostage with a, like, I mean, we've seen.
Do you think
that
some of the extras did too good a job? Like,
I don't think they did too good a job. I think, give the director and the writer and the intent credit, they wanted us to feel these people are afraid and that Sid was a genuine threat, and they did. Yeah, we genuinely felt these people were scared.
But it's just all over the place, because, like, there's a genuine threat of him, and then also there's, like, he's got a chop. There's a bit where he takes a fistful of glass and eats it like an apple.
He's the Joker. It's weird. You know?
Okay.
He really is. Like, he's making jokes and doing backflips and
he's doing
going,
bits.
Whoop, 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 whoop. Like, he's...
I do one thing. If I'm going to take anything away from that movie, it's to tell people about, if I want to say that I'm very confident about a response, I want to say that I'm double backflip ready. Are you ready for this? I'm double backflip ready. Because then he just executed a perfect double backflip.
Yeah. If I can do that, I can do anything. Can you do that? So Lawnmower Man would be the trifecta of early 90s virtual reality.
Which is Pierce Brosnan. It's Flowers for Algernon, if anyone is familiar with that sci-fi book. But instead of making or I guess there's an Always Sunny episode called Flowers for Charlie, where they give Charlie a bunch of experimental medicine that turns him into a genius. And in Flowers for Algernon, they give this rat a bunch of experimental medicine and turn it into a genius. And then in Lawnmower Man, they take the same premise, except I think they use the power of the internet. They plug a bunch of cables into an untastefully simple man's brain and turn him from a simple man. Is simple man okay?
I don't know what you're trying to do.
I don't know what the terminology is for it, but...
They take a dum-dum, they make him smart.
They take a dum-dum and they supercharge him with the internet. And he becomes clever. And it's fine for a while. And then... Yeah, that's exactly what I was picturing. Weird internet-based sex scenes happening.
Written by Stephen King.
Pierce Brosnan can't seem to get it together. Pierce Brosnan is sort of the scientist who's pushing everything along, who's been making this guy smart. But who is the titular Lawnmower Man?
Jeff Fahey? Playing Job Smith? Joby?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, so that's 1992. So that's got a few years on Mnemonic.
Mm-hmm.
I was really hoping for, like, some sort of, like, anomalous, these all came out in 1995 kind of things, but...
Lawnmower Man just they definitely go for the CGI a little bit more. It's hotter, newer technology, and I think in Johnny Mnemonic they've reined it in a little bit. It's still wacky, but it actually holds up a lot better than if you watch Lawnmower Man, which is just like bizarre 90s internet future. It
does. The moment where there's like...
Okay, the set-based stuff all looks pretty good. Okay. Lawnmower Man gets wacky towards the end where they're in all these big harnesses. Actually, they're in harnesses in Virtuosity as well. This is the harness from Lawnmower Man. It's like a Vitruvian man in a hamster wheel.
Yeah, it's one of them gyroscopy wheels. Is he spinning around in it?
He is spinning around in it, and to get into the spinny wheel, they also have to wear Tron suits.
Yeah.
Where does this place compare to Tron? That's got to be before 92, right?
Tron's mid-80s for sure, yeah.
Yeah, 82.
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't look 10 years better than Tron. So I don't know what they were doing for 10 years, but it was not working on the CGI. The portrayal of him as a simple man is...
It's not far off Simple Jack from
It's tough.
Tropic Thunder.
He's wearing his overalls. He's pushing his lawnmower. It's tricky.
They made a sequel? They made a number of sequels to this?
Lawnmower Man?
Yeah.
I think there's Lawnmower Man 2.
There's Lawnmower Man 2, and I'm looking at here on IMDb, and like it presented the Lawnmower Man video game as a direct sequel because it came out a year later.
Sure.
Well, we've got to get all of the lore, you know.
Yeah, I think that would finish off this triple bill of early 90s internet movies. Web surfing movies.
Who?
You know what I'm excited for you and your regular hosts to talk about?
Go on.
I forgot the name, but...
Describe it.
Is it Extraction? Is that what I'm thinking of?
Oh, yeah, the Chris Hemsworth sequel to that. Yeah. I don't know, that didn't go great the last time we talked about it. I did not like the original Extraction. I have a feeling that if I watch it again, maybe it's not as bad as I think. But I also have a feeling that it is as bad as I think. It's just an excuse to run around shooting and killing people, and I didn't like it. I found the lead to be uncharismatic. Not necessarily Chris Hemsworth, but like the character he's playing. I don't give a fuck. I don't like that guy at all. I don't like anyone in it. I don't like the action. It's way too long. The ending is dumb. Let's watch Extraction 2.
I will need to watch Extraction 1 again before we watch Extraction 2.
All right.
But what's next for Hemsworth?
He's taking a break, isn't he? Because of the almost inevitability of Alzheimer's hitting him.
Oh.
Did you know that?
No.
He did a show on Disney Plus that was like looking at like it was looking at like man's physicality is amazing. I can go surfing. I can go climbing. I'm great. And it was like looking at like the limits of human possibility.
Yeah.
And as part of that, he did genetic testing. Oh. And they went, your father has this gene. Your mother has this gene. You are 5 times more likely to get Alzheimer's than anyone else in the population.
Oh.
And I think he said he's taking a little break from whatever he was doing because it's so much time away from his family that if he's not going to remember, you know, like I'm painting a picture now as much as anything else, but you can understand after going, like you can't.
I thought that was just some bullshit trap. Okay, so but is the Alzheimer's diagnosis covered in the show?
Yeah.
Oh.
There's it's not a diagnosis.
No, I know.
But it's he got presented with a statistical likelihood. Mm-hmm. And we all know that there's shit coming from us in our genetic whatever. Like my family, my dad's got a lot of heart disease. My mother needed hip replacements. Like, you know, this stuff is in your line somewhere. Like there's strokes in the family. You know.
I did 23andMe. It said I was going to go deaf in an ear. My grandfather was deaf in the same ear, so I figure that's pretty accurate.
Yeah. So you kind of know this stuff is coming. But like to actually get someone...
Extraction 3.
To actually get someone to tell you.
You know what? I'm getting that Chris Hemsworth show mixed up with I think there was a Zac Efron travel show around the same time. I'm not sure which one of them is Deep Impact in this scenario, but
the Hemsworth one's way later. Like the Efron one, I think is almost on like, you know, they did a season 2 years apart, and then they did the Disney Plus one came out with Hemsworth. But that is what I know of Hemsworth's current activities. I think last I heard he said he was taking a little break. Mm-hmm. He's doing, like, obviously he's promoting this film and anything else he's got in production, and he's got that health, like that fitness business he was doing as well. You can train with Chris with some app or something.
I'd like to see him settle into just a good action star role. You know,
he hasn't really got it, does he?
Extraction. The Extraction franchise. Extractiverse.
He was
they got to keep getting him out of places.
He was talk. There was talk for a 4th Star Trek movie where he would return as Kirk's father.
Oh yeah.
Because there's a lot of time travel in the Star Trek universe. But who knows at this point? Did you see? I know you saw Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
I loved it.
You loved it. Any thoughts? Any questions? Any queries?
I like that in one scene in the Spider-Verse that is in the trailer. You know, there's lots of spider people running around the city.
Mm-hmm.
The best thing about seeing it in the cinema was I love seeing superhero movies in the theater and getting the audience reactions.
Mm.
And Spider-Verse 2 had the best audience outcry when running through the Spider-Verse area. I don't want to spoil what kind of spider person they saw, but it was a very unique, specific Cretaceous spider person. And the person across the cinema just went, "Oh my God!" Which is exactly why you go to the theater.
You like the audience interaction.
I like audible gasps during, that's why I like the M. Night movies. Those usually aren't gasps. Those are usually like, what?
Okay.
No, it was beautiful. I really enjoyed it. I liked I know you guys were talking about the animation style changing. That didn't bother me so much. Like, I kind of...
Didn't bother me.
I didn't get hung up on it, is a big word. I liked the representation of all the different universes. And I kind of just figured that it was like a visual representation. Like, I didn't think that the paper vulture was actually made out of paper. You know, I thought that, I don't know, they're seeing each other. They're all in the same universe, but they're all still tied to their old universe. So maybe they're being represented in a different way in this universe. That's, you know, I don't actually think he's made of paper. But that was great. What's that?
A tough cop, a dead lawyer. Every partnership has its problems. Bob Hoskins, Denzel Washington, heart condition. I have never heard of that film. Sorry, I got distracted.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
But you're going to get into, on the Spider-Verse thing, you saying I didn't think he was actually made of paper, it's just how he's perceived, is basically going to be, you know, for Brian's point, part of the discussion. It's like, is he made of paper? Isn't he made of paper? You think he is.
I thought
he was.
I don't think he's made of paper.
Where I arrive at the end of the day is it doesn't actually matter, and we shouldn't get hung up on it. Whereas Brian's point seems to be, you have to be able to answer these questions. I don't think you do.
I'm okay answering it, and I don't think he's made of paper.
Okay, and I answer he is.
Okay.
Because, I mean, like, enough paper pushed together is a tree. It's going to be heavy.
Where are the lines on the paper coming from, though?
Where are the construction lines coming from on Miguel? It's all very silly. The universes are weird. But, like, I can see both arguments at different moments, you know? Like, when they go back to the 67 one, they all perceive each other as 67 style animation. You know, we see that in the very last scene of Into the Spider-Verse. 3D CG Miguel pops back and he changes his perception.
Yeah, I don't know if it was you or Brian that said that seeing, you know, as you get to a new universe, if the sky is completely different, that would be your first question. Like, why is the sky super different? But, like, you know, in that first movie, they have a week of, you know, she's running around that universe for a week before she meets him. So I feel like she's had some time to acclimatize to it. And she's also met a small talking pig. So maybe the sky, you know, I understand the sky as like a big thing, but a few different colors versus a small animated pig.
That's part of my thing. Yes, you might have first questions, but by the time we meet these people, they've been here a while.
I'm just so curious how they plan to do any of this. Because it does seem like they're really tight. Because there was, in that Spider-Verse movie, I guess, if you haven't seen it, there are spoilers ahead, but they see the, that sacred timeline is in the... Do you think that that's just them nodding at... Like, okay, the end of that Venom movie, they open up the portal, and it's almost like Sony is, like, peering in to the MCU, seeing all their success, seeing that Spider-Man, the three spiders all doing their thing.
Is that the second Venom movie?
The second Venom movie, at the end, he like sees the portal open up and sees all the spider people having a fucking great time, and then he's just hanging out in a bar on a beach. And I think that's as close as that's gonna get. But in this one, it felt like they were trying to make more of an effort to layer spider animations over the sacred timeline, where the sacred timeline is this blue-white stream of events, and then the spider timeline is a red web of canon events.
So, yeah, you mentioned this as well, and I think that I think because Sony and Marvel there's this overlap. There are shared concepts that they want to nod to one another that I don't think they necessarily have to interact with each other. So the sacred timeline that you see in the Loki show, which is where we're talking about the sacred timeline, is a left to right gold line with a glow that with various tangents off of it. Whereas the Sony version that Miguel presents is like a tree. It's a vertical line. It grows off white. So it's definitely playing off a visual language that they're reinforcing because they know we've seen it, most likely in Loki. But it's not dependent on you. It's not, it's not tied to the MCU inherently. It's just shared ideas. It absolutely is a shared idea. By the time we've established this concept of alters and other universes, is it not as gold as I thought it was?
It's not gold.
These things don't need to interact, but like the sheer concept implies that both can exist, or both are existing at the same time, or both are part of the same thing. Loki talking about all the alters. Yeah, if there's that many Spider-Mans, there's that many Lokis in each of those universes. We just haven't touched on the animated ones yet. I'd be curious if the new Loki show shows us an animated version of them. That'd be funny. Would it be funny, or have we seen it 5 times already? But like, it's there. Is there anything else you're looking forward to coming up? Streaming releases, films.
I'm kind of in the doldrums at the moment. I watch a lot of TV, but movie-wise, I didn't even watch The French Dispatch, but that Asteroid City is coming out pretty soon. But I think I may have...
You burned out in Anderson?
I might be burned out on Wes Anderson.
Interesting.
He's becoming like a...
French Dispatch would burn you out on him.
So that's why I'm hesitant to watch it.
I wouldn't say watch that before Asteroid City. I'm hoping that Asteroid City is a return to a more normal linear story.
It's becoming too neo-meta.
I loved French Dispatch. I really did enjoy it. But it was more in a I just put it on in an afternoon and sat there and just let 5 little short kind of concepts wash over you for a while.
Is he getting further away from realism, though, where it's becoming almost like a heightened reality
100%
stage show?
Yeah, in that. I don't know about Asteroid City.
I could get most comfortable with that around Grand Budapest. And I was like, okay, this is getting a little too meta almost, but then when I saw French Dispatch trailers and stuff like that, I was like, okay, this is getting a little, like Steve Zissou is grounded in reality. Royal Tenenbaums is pretty grounded in reality. They're fun, cartoonish stories, but they're not.
Yeah, and like Zissou, The Life Aquatic kind of plays with the idea that stuff in the ocean is weird, and the way we have to interact with the ocean is weird. So you can heighten that pretty quickly. Like the weird little yellow submarines and
it's all contained. Fish. I think that's a good way of looking at it, because it's all contained within the ocean. Yeah. Anytime there's some weird non-reality moment, it's always to do with this little submarine or to do with the fishes or the leopard shark or whatever. And then as Grand Budapest started happening, I think there's a scene where Willem Dafoe is furiously riding a little sled through a snowstorm. You know that scene I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That's where it's escaping the realms of, having it in one place, and then it starts bursting out, and it's almost getting a little MC. He's got his own Wes Anderson universe, and every celebrity is vying to be a cameo, whether or not they put a mustache on him and they give him some sort of weird, unique thing. And you just start to see the strings after a while, and I'm like, I'd like you to move on and do something different.
Yeah, like French Dispatch has this moment where we're seeing, I think it's Jeffrey Wright as a journalist, and he's there to do like a food review. But there's a kidnapping takes place, and suddenly he's present at a hostage situation.
Okay.
And a car chase happens, but when the car chase happens, it just goes full animation, like full 2D animation.
Yeah. Sorry, this is French Dispatch?
Yes.
Okay.
And like that animation is funny, and it drives all over the city, but it's like they completely switch to a cartoon for 5 minutes.
And I think that he's honing something. I'm just not interested in what he's honing. You know, like if his early movies were a mixed match of the sort of quirky, artsy stuff mixed with a good soundtrack, mixed with some little quirky moments, it's getting more towards, I don't know, he's going off in his own direction. And I respect him for honing it.
Yeah.
It's just losing me a little. But I'm sure it's gaining other people who are interested in that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Honing is a tough one as well, because like
it's getting more.
I don't feel like he's
concentrated.
aiming at something. I just feel like he's enjoying what he's able to do.
I think he's aiming at doing like he's trying to portray like the French cinema. You know, like he's trying to do these strange camera shots. Not really, not Dutch angles, but he's doing something. Oh, I got it.
Okay.
No, it's not that I don't like it. I'm not on board. I liked Isle of Dogs. Did you see Isle of Dogs?
I did like Isle of Dogs, yeah.
I love
But his animation stuff,
Fantastic Mr. Fox.
his animation
If
stuff,
if they just stick with that and they're like, this is it,
But
then I'm on board the whole way.
he had a very structured, constructed way of making a film to begin with. And then he made 2 films where you have to create every single thing, frame by frame, shot by shot, camera move by camera move. It's only made him worse. If like when I say worse, I mean it's heightened those instincts. So the films that came after it, much more cartoon, much more animated, much more. I don't know that I want to say storyboarded, but I imagine they must be, because you have to set up that shot and it has to be deathly symmetrical. Somebody pointed out in the French Dispatch, there's a video there where it's like the blinking is synchronized at one point. You know what I mean? Like there's somebody having a conversation, somebody blinks, and they all sort of, you know what I mean?
Do you think it's fair to say that he's okay? I'm starting to figure out what I think he's honing. I think he's honing his film making, and he's honing that through animation, and it's becoming more rigid, not in a bad way, but everything is structured, and he's learned from his animation stuff. He's definitely getting away from what I think brought me to it, which was the style plus the characters. And he's not really doing character stuff anymore. Like, Royal is a great character supported by all his subsequent children. I loved Darjeeling Limited. I like the relationship between the 3 brothers dealing in this sort of fallout of their father's death. And Angelica Hudson is this like mom that doesn't want anything to do with all that. They're all like very character. And Steve Zissou, titular, you know. And now they're getting towards like French Dispatch, which is, I don't know, like 20, 30 characters. It didn't seem like I cared about any of them. It's becoming more, the ensemble cast is becoming like unrulily large.
Yes, there's this sort of silent line delivery, like just I have to go, very like silent followed by flat line delivery thing that's a little losing
dry.
Yeah, and it's becoming all of the characters to a degree. But that being said, Mr. Gustav in the Budapest Hotel, like Ralph Fiennes, I think he's Gustav, right? His character is fun.
It's a good character.
This like very posh, very structured,
very proper,
chaotic individual at the same time.
Yeah.
He's great fun. Is the French Dispatch the one after that? I mean, so. That's harder to argue the case for great characters in it, because there are so many characters. But like Timothée Chalamet's thing is funny, but like the 50s French student protests thing, it's kind of like, it's hard to parse. You're just watching something happen, you know.
I've seen all his other movies, and I've had plenty of time to watch French Dispatch, and I just can't bring myself around to watch it. And I should.
We'll make it happen.
Gotta watch Lawnmower Man first. Talk about character development.
All right.
He started at the bottom, and now he started mowing lawns, and Then he became the internet.
A cut above.